Welcome to the Creative AI Show. What do we have this week, Brian?
Hey, Rosh, we got a real exciting episode this week, and as always, we are two creative guys talking AI. And you know what? We're gonna pat our backs a little bit. We're gonna try not to pull a muscle, but we're gonna pat our backs a little. Thank you to you for motivating us to do this. But we are now officially 5 months in the book. It's now June. 5 months in the books of posting on YouTube every single day. And we're coming close to some goals here.
Yeah,
I'm happy to announce that maybe even by the time some people listen to this video that or listen to this podcast online, that we might be at our 1,000 subscribers. We're almost internet famous. How do you feel?
almost. Nice. Yeah, 1,000 is a good mark. The hardest in YouTube,
Mhm.
the hardest point to get to in YouTube is the 1,000. The next
Right.
is 10,000, and then it's always then 100,000. I mean, it's there's always something ahead of you, but getting to that first mark,
Yes.
in having people, as you pointed out, engage with us, that's
Yeah.
nice. It's nice
Yeah.
because we can really understand what people want to know more about.
Right. Yeah, and that's mainly what I wanted us to talk about today. So we'll kind of take a break from our usual topic here and just kind of brag about the YouTube channel a little bit. And, some of our struggles, some of our successes, what's worked for us, what hasn't. And, also just to talk a little bit about some of our best performing. I mean, we've got over
Yeah.
180 videos up. And certainly there's, 8 or 10 of them now that are over that 1,000 view, most of yours.
It's actually
Um,
about 20 now.
20. Wow. Hey,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
I
mean,
do want to
when.
throw, I'm going to throw at the end, there's a couple things that, or maybe even in the beginning, just a couple things that have happened this past week that I think people will
Right.
be interested in. But we'll get into that in a few moments. But I think it's important because we want to be timely because that's
Hmm.
what we're all about, which is quite honestly a big theme when it comes to the YouTube channel, being
Right,
timely.
exactly. Yeah, 100%. So, I'll kind of dive into it. I have a King of the Hill video that I'm still holding on to this throne here on the top of the mountain, but yours
By
is nipping
100
at my
views,
heels. You're like 200 views behind, and your video is like
100
2 months
views, but who's
newer. Oh,
counting?
100. Hey, you set up a timer in there, didn't you? You set up a little alarm thing in your office that you're gonna
There
have a
you
little
go. Click,
confetti come down from
click,
the ceiling.
click.
But anyway, my video that did well, but obviously it slowed down. But I did a video about the top 5 viral trends on ChatGPT when the ChatGPT image came out.
Yeah.
And that was one of those first moments where we were kind of texting each other like, "Hey, this is kind of blowing up. This is doing really well." It was one of those kind of rocket ship start ones. And then what I noticed over time was that our viewership on this one, more than, YouTube recommendations or different things like that, ended up being from external.
Right.
And it was a highly Googled term.
Yeah.
And because Google and YouTube are in cahoots, it was serving up my video as one of those Google search ones, or those top three, like 4 or 5 prompts down on
Yeah. Right.
Google, you'll typically get to those YouTube ones. And we were getting a ton of external traffic coming in and watching this one. And because I think people wanted to know how to make those little action figure
Yeah.
things.
Well, the thing you did right with this one is that, this one was all you. I've been doing the YouTube thing for a long time and very involved in the YouTube community. However, I've given you some guidance here and there,
For
but
sure.
this
Yeah.
was your experience in the social media,
Hmm.
your connecting with the trend, and that was a trend. You went for it, and it did great.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. But I do appreciate your kind of hints and suggestions. I feel like your ears are always a little bit closer to the ground as to what's coming up next and knowing about the latest updates and stuff. So I always appreciate your guidance on that. And it's especially in this past month with
Yeah.
Google Veo and other things going out, we've
Yeah.
had just some explosions. So I mean, talk about the one that you put out that's a nipping on my heels here.
Yeah, that's VO 3. And again, both the videos that have done really well for me were just launches, things that
Hmm.
were launched that people seemed interested in. Sky Reels
Right.
was the other one that was earlier in
Exactly.
the year. And it was good. It was a good platform, it was one that people had not heard much about at the time,
Hmm.
but were curious about. And then now Google launching all that new
Yeah.
stuff a couple weeks ago. That was has gotten a lot of people's attention. People have been talking about it. I've run into a lot of people. Hey, did you hear about the new Google
Right.
video? Yeah, I'm
Oh
familiar.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Well aware.
well
Yeah.
aware. And so yeah, it got a lot of attention, and that's why we have to just be on top of it all the
Right.
time, to make sure that, because a really good example, we talked about, I think you and I just talked about, on the side, was about video, and they
Hmm.
had a new update, but it was 2 weeks ago, before I had not noticed. I hadn't
Right.
gotten the word. And so I said, "Oh, hey, an update." And it had done well before, and then this time, not much of anything, because
Yeah.
it was not timely. And we have to really be timely, because the folks listening to the show, that's where they get the information. And if you already have it, who needs us?
Right. Yeah, you got to strike while it's hot. And, admittedly, I saw how well your video did, and I saw it right away. So the next day I was up, and you know what? I fully, unabashedly rode your coattails into another almost 1,000 watch video. It's at 890 right now with 24 likes. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah.
But, we've had some successes and failures in the past before where we see a topic do really well, and we're like, hey, let's do something adjacent to that. This is something people are interested in. And this was an example of it working well. People wanted more information about this, great, tool. And I think we both provide a bit of a different perspective and experience in it. I
Mhm.
like, some of my first reaction videos do pretty well.
Yeah.
That is definitely a title that's worked really well. Like, one of my other successful ones in the past was about Rev, and we've talked about Rev and how much
Yeah.
just we love it. It's one of the best image generators,
Absolutely.
and just getting that first reaction of my first time using it and kind of being, I'm not acting here. I was legitimately blown away by it because,
Yeah.
we're used to tools that are not nearly that
Still,
good.
and still use it to this day
Oh,
regularly.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
for clients and stuff, when I
yeah.
need an image that's got a very complex prompt, a lot going on, but I need it to look real, that's still where I go. Even though Kling image is great, Colors 2.0 is good,
Yep.
ChatGPT is really good. But I've done a couple
Imagen 4
videos
is
now.
good. I mean, there's so
Yeah.
many great ones.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, even Midjourney too is, one of
Yeah,
the
of course. Yeah.
main, steadies. And but it's just so good to know, hey, I want to make an image in this certain style. I've got 8 to 10 different programs I can use, but to have that knowledge of knowing exactly, all right, I'm looking for this specific style, so I'm going to use this exact one. And a lot of that is the purpose of our channel and why we're creating these videos. And, it seems like, we're talking about some of the same topics over and over again, but we're talking about it from different perspectives and
Hmm.
different ways. And, was this latest release, was it worth it or was it a step backwards?
Yeah.
You know,
Which it is
we've seen
sometimes.
yeah, we've definitely seen that. So, what are some of the other your other favorites that you've put up here that have gotten some good feedback?
I like the comparison ones. I just enjoy doing them,
Hmm.
seeing how, because it just makes me more knowledgeable. And so creating videos that I would want to watch, I would
Right.
hope that maybe it's something that somebody else might want to watch too, because
Hmm.
it's a question I have, which does this better, or even a
Right.
theme. I figure, as these tools continue to get better and better, as we are with, say, images. We just named 5, 6 different, and we didn't name them all, really good image creators,
Yeah.
just straight up. And they've gotten so good so fast. And, we're eventually going to get there with video. It's just going to be commonplace. They're all going to do well.
Right.
So down the road, I think we'll do more themes. For
Hmm.
example, I've enjoyed doing comparing food and
Yes. Well,
comparing
that's
food
your
things.
world, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's been your
which,
career for years, so you're very knowledgeable about
yeah,
how it should look. And
yeah,
again, that's why I think at the end of the day, the artists aren't really going to go away here because you have to have the brain of understanding what's a good and what's a bad output.
yeah.
If you have no knowledge of photography or, especially in your specific direction of food photography, you could kind of just be like, yeah, it all looks good. But it's like, no, no, no. They got the aperture right here. They got the lighting. They got the texture, different things like that. And that's why the experts still matter.
Again, it's back to the vision. What is your vision? Now, what tool are you going to use to create the vision? You
Right.
may create your own with a camera,
Yeah.
or your phone, or or go to AI. it's ultimately about the vision because we're creating these things ultimately for people.
Yeah,
And if people don't enjoy the story, enjoy the imagery, enjoy the whatever it is you're trying to create in that vision, it's as you get more and more, you're going to have to get better and better. And I think really the level of creativity is going to go up. I have seen some really amazing stuff that people have been creating with Google lately, and
yeah,
just and it wasn't so much anymore about, oh wow, it's a realistic looking person. It was the story they created, a story that a presentation of different topics that I've never seen before, or
right.
even ideas that have never been presented in that way.
Yeah.
And there's so much that we can do to help, bring concepts, ideas, and again, maybe even old stories and new stories to life.
Yeah, the bar has been raised across the board, and that's what's exciting. I had a really good conversation with a gentleman in my BNI group who's the other IT guy,
Yeah.
whom actually I think you would connect well with. And he said that, he's taken on a few projects from clients of, coding and programming things that a year ago would have been just a full stop, hey, I just can't do that.
Right.
And now with these tools raising the bar, he's taking on these projects that are way outside of his, coding comfort zone
Hmm.
and handling them with care. Like he talked about Claude 4 and Sonnet and different things like
Yep.
that, and just how it's like a cheat code now to create these things. And
Oh, it is.
you're feeling that same way, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been coding with AI for a good 4 years or more.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and so yes, but I feel the same way because each year my level of coding has improved with the quality of the coding with the AI
Yeah.
and my ability to take on new things or solve bigger, tougher problems that maybe
Mhm.
just like your friend wouldn't even taken on a year, maybe 2 years ago.
Right. I mean, I made a music video for a song from my band about 2.5 years ago when I just kind of got my hands on creating imagery through ChatGPT. And, that was really the only direction I was doing. And it was like Dolly 2 at that time. And, things were still a lot of
Yeah,
hallucinations and a lot of distortions in them. And I
right.
still thought, I'm like, wow, this technology is amazing. I'm going to do a little music video. I'll give them a slight little pan and zoom. Maybe I'll add some
Yep.
motions in After Effects, just like ripples and stuff like that. And, 2 years ago, I never thought that I could do something like Google Veo where I go in there, give it a prompt, and get a full 8-second HD video just based on my prompt of, exactly what I'm trying to do. It's like, the steps I've already taken in progression in 2 years, I'm like almost embarrassed to show that video I made 2 years ago,
Yeah,
even though then I was super proud of it. But the bar keeps getting raised in terms of
absolutely.
creativity
Yep.
and what we're capable of. And like we said, as we grow here, we've been getting some really useful comments from our fan base. And like sometimes I try not to be defensive because I know that the typical nature of people online is to be a little more brusque, a little more
Yeah,
snarky maybe than
sure.
they would be in a face-to-face conversation. And it's like, what? This person, even if they don't have the nicest thing to say, they're still taking the time to comment on our video. They
Yep.
watch the video and they have something that they want to say in this feedback. And as long as they're not being like super negative, but they're saying, hey, I'd rather see this done than that.
Yeah.
The fact that our fan base is now starting to kind of guide the direction of the content is such a wonderful back and forth.
Yeah, when you see trends, obviously, and
Yeah.
we haven't created a video on something or just another way of looking at it. And hey, I've been called out for totally missing something.
Mhm.
Even my first my Kling video, I actually redid it. I realized that I was just panning the new Kling, and then I realized I was using the cheap mode,
Ah, okay.
and
Well,
then
it's
I
not
had
apples
to
to apples, right? Yeah.
yeah, I had to pull it down and re-edit it a little bit and say, sorry, folks, some of these I may sound a little rough on Clink for in part of this video because I didn't want to redo the whole video.
Yeah.
Because most of it was still relevant because I was
Right.
comparing it. But I realized that, yeah, okay, no, the good one is really good, but the cheap one, and I say cheap one, but the less expensive version of the turbo, is what everybody else seems to call them. And but see, that is also something that I you could say is a criticism. They didn't make it clear. It just said cling to one
Right.
and then
It
cling to
wasn't.
one master.
Yeah.
And so I just did cling to one, without even thinking about it.
Yeah,
but
without thinking that it's a turbo version, you think it's
right.
kind of just your standard version, and then there's your expensive version. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
something
get
like
that.
that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So,
No, that makes total sense. So, all right, I got a question then back for you.
yeah.
When it comes to generating these videos and say coming up with ideas or anything, what are some of the ways that you're currently using other AIs, say like your favorite LLM, to help produce these videos?
So a lot of times it's just off the top of my head, quite honestly, or the
Okay.
need for a client. But I will go to ChatGPT o3, or if I really want to get creative, I go to Claude. Claude to me is by far the most creative of them all, and right now is probably the best. The only problem with Claude is the limitations on how much you can do
Okay.
at a time. I think it's a little better than it was, but I'm still used to sticking with o3. But I will tell you this, that I'm considering turning off my $200 subscription
Ah,
because I really
okay.
don't think I need it as much anymore. There's enough to work with. I had a big project where o3 was great, but I got it where I could use it a lot and pretty much unlimited. Uh,
Okay.
but I really got it for Operator, and
Yeah.
I don't think I've used Operator since I got it.
Okay. Yeah, I
I
was
test.
curious about that. If it's just
Yeah,
sitting
yeah.
there
No,
idly by.
if I'm
Yeah.
going to use, I'll use Manus more than I'll
Hmm.
use Operator. I think Manus is better, and that's
Okay.
so. So
Well,
yeah,
maybe
there's no
that's a
good.
good topic for another video down the
Yeah,
road.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I know I definitely I just love ChatGPT for Omni, like for lowercase o. That's just
Hmm.
it's been kind of my standard go-to, just and it's got a lot of memory of, different things that I've talked about over the months with it. And I'll typically use it for when I'm trying to compare prompts and different things. And if I want to do like say the one that I did a couple days ago about Kling 2.1 versus Master
Hmm.
2.1, I
Hmm.
really wanted to push it with a very, very lengthy, almost 2 paragraphs worth of prompt.
Oh,
And I tell ChatGPT exactly which program I'm using, what my goal here is. The first one, I kind of directed it. I want the prompt to be in this direction. All right, the next one, then I said, hey, it's 100% up to you. You give me whatever scene you want to do. I want the prompt for the image, and then I want the prompt for the image to video, and it did it perfectly. And a lot of these times I'll use that, and I'll call it out during the video. Hey, I use ChatGPT for this
right.
prompt. And what's nice about that is it knows the different ways of using these programs and which ways to best prompt them.
Yeah.
So that can definitely be very helpful. So and also, just instead of a lot of typing where I can have typos and different things like that, if I'm doing the video, I like to be able just to copy paste in the prompt. So that's nice.
Yeah. No, and I
Um,
do that, and I've done that in my videos too.
good.
Just going on over to ChatGPT because or Claude, just because I think in the videos usually it's ChatGPT, just because I want a variety of ideas. I
Mhm.
have a couple ideas, but say, hey, push it, give me more ideas to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what's nice too is yeah, we've kind of got our defaults that we turn to a lot, and then it's like, all right, let's go completely off the deep end and see what you're going to offer me.
Yeah.
I also use it just for ideas in general. Hey, I'm shooting an episode this week. Where what's the latest in news, updates, different things, what's trending, and just kind of asking it, and to go in and do that. But then that's something that I'm actually now going to use Google AI mode a bit more for
Sure.
going down the road because it's going to be a little better suited for that.
Hmm.
And then sometimes I've used it for thumbnail image creation. So
Oh,
oftentimes I'll use some of the images that I'm using in the video. But if
yep.
it's a video that like is music based and stuff like that, that I don't
Right.
really have an image that I'm manipulating in that video, I'll use it for that. So yeah, it's kind of fun to see the different ways. And then lastly, most importantly to me, when I'm done working with my LLM at the end of the video, I'll say, okay, great, I'm exporting it. I need a clickbait type title and a description. And it'll often give me something, and then I'll manipulate it from there. But it gives me, the 90% of what I'm looking for the video. So,
Yeah.
just ways that I use AI in these videos to hopefully make them do a little better. We've certainly seen some success with it,
Yeah.
and yeah, so pretty exciting. Anything else that you wanted to mention that's
Yeah, I want
going
to
on with
talk
the channel?
about two things real quick
Mhm.
that were important this week. Mary Meeker, she's a longtime, pretty well-known person in the AI world. She launched it's kind of the state of AI and what's going on,
Mm.
340-page deck. And everybody's talking about it because it's just so in depth in terms of the speed, it's talking about the speed and what is happening in AI. And I saw someone who's actually, there's an article on that on her deck, and it said it's not your imagination. AI is speeding up at the faster than normal pace of change. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just going so quickly. It's not point being, and this is what a lot of people are getting out of this. She just shows you in graphs and charts that
Yeah.
this is not your normal Moore's law kind of a growth.
Right.
This is going faster than anybody can adapt to. And we've talked about that. I mean, we've been doing this podcast for a couple of years now in
Hmm.
this form. And we sometimes we feel like we don't have enough time to do it. Even with doing a YouTube every
Yeah.
single day, it's we don't have enough
Busy.
bandwidth,
Right.
yeah, to do it all. So that is something. If you're a technology AI nerd and love charts and graphs and insight, that's the place to go. Just look up Mary Meeker and you'll find
Okay.
it. Another
Very
thing that
cool.
was of
Yeah.
interest is that OpenAI, kind of looking into the future of the world, and that is Johnny Ive. Uh, the deal with OpenAI, he's the guy who first designed the iPod and then the
Right.
iPhone, and
I heard all about that. I'm glad you mentioned it.
he's a
Yeah.
famous designer and very well known. So I'm very curious. I'm sure it's going to be somewhere in the wearable world of some sort, basically
Yeah.
taking AI out into the world. And it's going to be interesting to see what comes of that relationship.
Yeah.
That was a $6.5 billion deal. I'm sure they have big plans. So
Yeah, that's very exciting. I mean, like you said, with the rate of change, it's beyond exponential at this point.
yeah,
It's,
it's just
it's off the charts, as they like to say.
yeah. So, and sometimes we panic about how fast this is going. It's going to go faster than we think, but people aren't moving that fast. People are still going to work and doing their things. And yes, we're going to start to adapt and apply it to our work, and it is going to
Right.
change work for us. But I mean, just because it's here right now doesn't mean it's going to be used to its maximum potential right now.
For sure. But that's our job here on this show to keep telling people how to use it to its maximum potential. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah, it's a reason to stick around next week and keep on listening.
absolutely. Okay, so I think that's us for the week.
Yeah, very good. Well, yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week. Until then, we're two creative guys talking AI.
Talk to you next week.